It's Sunday night. It's 6 o'clock Eastern. It's time for another deep conversation. You already know Aquarian Anarchy coming right back at you. Tonight's quote is from Aleister Crowley. Liberty stirs once more in the womb of time. Doesn't it always? Seems to find a way to always be stirring. I don't know, as you have probably noticed if you've been watching this show, we have been taking quite a few breaks from the political and the stuff of the last 2 years conversation, and we have been going more and more into something that is very important to the three of us, which is spirituality, the ethereal, things beyond what the eye can see, and trying to understand those things more and trying to align ourselves better with that. And tonight is no exception. I'm going to hand things off to Nicco and let him take it from here, because we have a special guest on tonight who is going to help us to dig a little deeper into that from a different perspective.
Yo, what's good? What's good with you, Aga? I'm not going to lie. I do not know how to pronounce your name. You most definitely did tell us how to, and I most definitely did forget. As you know, I'm great at forgetting things, but I am not great at forgetting about deep things. Pause. I'm not. I am great about remembering very special people and who are very intellectual and know how to go in depth when it comes to conversation, especially about things that are of the intangible, if you will. But without further ado, I met my boy through GG33. It's basically a numerology group, but the group chat, we were able to speak our mind freely about, how things are connected. And Aga most definitely showed out, especially on Twitter, with all the things that I retweet. If you pay attention to me, all he does is just retweet things that just kind of sing to the soul or catch the eye if you really know what you're looking for. But what's up with you, my
guy? Nothing, man. I'm very honored, and I feel honored to be here to speak with you all. I'm always surprised when people take notice of anything that I do, because I'm like, I feel like what I'm reading or what I'm thinking is common or normal, but then the reactions say like, no, this is something different. So anytime someone takes the time to like want to hear what I have to say, I'm always honored by that, taken back by that as well.
Most definitely. So I mean, let's go to the beginning. How does this all start? Where does it all start?
You mean like where I was?
Where does your I mean,
from,
I guess enlightenment phase? Yeah, no, actually, yeah. Let's talk about you as an individual.
As an individual, my background, I'm from the East Coast. I'm actually from Virginia. I have a lot of roots in the country. All of my family is deep into Christianity. Not very open when it comes to much else. So I've always been skeptical when it comes to Christianity. And I know that, Chad, I know you're Catholic, and I know y'all have your different backgrounds, so I don't mean anything disrespectfully, but I've always been skeptical about Christianity. I as a matter of fact, as I started digging deeper into spirituality, I always asked my mom, like, hey, when did I start to question things? And she would always say, like, hey, you've been like that since you could read, since like the age of 5. You've been asking questions about the Bible, where did we come from? She used to say, I always asked her, is this real life? She was like, you always ask me that, like, is this real life? As if I knew coming here that there's something more than meets the eye. So as far as we can fast forward, as far as my spiritual, I'll say evolution or enlightenment, if I have researched such a stage, it probably started about 5 or 6 years ago when, are y'all familiar with the term? I'm sure you are, the term Dark Night of the Soul.
Yes, sir.
Carolyn Mace.
So I had that thrust upon me. I actually started experimenting with Moldavite at the time, and I'm not sure if I ever use Moldavite or use it for meditation or spiritual practices, but it's one of those crystals that it would accelerate your um, your experiences into spirituality, make you face things that you may not be ready to face. But so I had my dark night of the soul that lasted probably about 3 years, and once I came out of that, I just had this burning desire to like know more, and that's where I started to read a bunch of books, go deeper into my meditations, pretty much just the normal things, and then I just had an epiphany, like, okay, probably within um I'll say within a year, I just had a peace of mind where I knew what I was here to do, and I knew that like I'll be taken care of by the higher forces, by my higher self.
Nice.
Can I cut in
So
real quick?
that's pretty much it about.
I wanted to ask you about this thing. You said you were asking at a young age. You kept asking, "Is this real life?" And I had a similar experience when I was a kid. Like I actually felt like when I was probably as far back as I can remember it, I was like 6 or 7 years old, maybe 8, and I swore like everything was a simulation, and like my mom and dad, everybody, like they were all like robots or something, some sort of like program that I was put in to see how I would respond to it, how I would react to it. And like, I was like, it's like, none of this shit's real. This is all just a test for me to see, like I had this weird sort of like, so when I heard you say that, I was like, shit, like, I think we're all kind of tapping into the same energy and inquisitiveness and everything. And it's about like, how many of us are willing to just accept the answers that we're given, and how many of us are like, no, I'm going to question to the void. I'm going to keep questioning until there's actually like an answer that I can't go any further with.
So y'all aren't figments of my imagination? Like y'all?
I don't know. I might be.
Y'all are real. Y'all sure?
As far as I know, you're a figment of mine. But anyway, if you don't mind, I want to understand a little bit more about like, how did that? Because like for me, it was the world was a simulation, and I was like surrounded by all these like robot programs, NPCs of a certain sort that I was just meant to interact with them. And it was, I guess in a way, it could be seen as self-centered, but it was also like kind of, I thought of it more as like introspective, and not so much like I wasn't feeling selfish about it. I was just like, sometimes I just wonder what the hell y'all are doing to me. Like, why is this shit happening? So how did that manifest itself to you at a young age?
I would say the most prevalent way that I can pinpoint is just my almost insatiable lust for knowledge, because I felt like I was always looking for something to either verify or disprove what I was experiencing. And so I'm 33 years old now, but my mom says that since I've been able to read, since probably about 3 or 4, I've always been like my nose in the book, and I'm probably within 3 months to 6 months did I recently find enough peace ago. 3 months, 6 months ago, that I recently find enough this peace where, okay, maybe all of these things are real or not real, but I have like this peace that I'm here to do a certain thing and nothing else really matters. I went through stages where I was reading, watching documentaries, because I was always feeling like I needed to fill this void or try to gain this understanding. But then through meditation, I haven't had that urge. Like I just have this light like click on, and I can't really describe it for you. This light click on where everything makes sense because I know my role in the whole scheme of things.
What's that role?
So I figured that would come up. My role
You can't say something like that and get away
is
with it.
to be, and my role is from my perspective is to be what's called it's been termed a spiritual ambassador for my family. One of my teachers, he's a big person. Well, not I wouldn't say huge, but he's on YouTube. His name is Indra Ali, or S. Ali Myers. I'm not sure if you heard of him or not. But he coined the term. At least the first time I saw it was spiritual ambassador. So that's the person in your family who's supposed to be like that bridge between the natural and the spiritual. So for my family, I know that's me because no one else in my family is conscious, and so I get dreams and gut feelings that says that everything that I want extra in my life will come as a result of me doing my work, taking care of my ancestors. That's pretty much like the biggest part of my magic at this point in time is just ancestral magic, altar magic, ancestral veneration, that type of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my role. And then there's a few other things additionally that come with that, but the biggest part is making sure my ancestors are taken care of.
Actual.
One of the things that I find interesting about you is personally from following you on Twitter is I like that you're similar to me in many ways, that you've mixed a lot of different things to find your own way. And that you might throw a title on this or that. And I really like the family ambassador title. I probably service that in my family as well. And so I really like that description. But what I like is that you're not fixated on this is the truth, and this is the only place this is the only cup I can go to get sustained with. So I enjoy that. And if people see me looking up what's going on, is I don't even know how this happened.
Around or something.
No, it's a big ass like bumblebee.
That's a motherfucking killer moth. I heard
that thing buzzing.
Bro,
I was like,
it's a bumblebee, dude. In my basement, in my studio is in the basement of my house.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was Aga, and like there was a bee that was just like zooming past.
No, it's like my lights are up here, and that bumblebee has found God. He's up there looking at the light. But yeah, it's a huge bumblebee. But anyway, so just apologizing for that. But at the end of the day, what I found interesting about you, and you and I have had a couple of exchanges on Twitter, but what I find interesting about you is that you also mix in ideas of liberty as well, which I think is natural myself, but that hasn't been my experience of spiritual people. A lot of times spiritual people tend to be pretty left and pretty liberal, and that never made any sense to me, but it is what happens. And you fall more along the lines, at least from what I've seen, of a voluntarist and anarchist, those kinds of things. So within your spirituality, how do you find freedom hitting that piece as well?
I think it's because of the teachers that I have, because like you said, most people who are in the spiritual community tend to lean towards the left. But I think by being in this group, GG33, following S.L.E. Myers, and then I have another teacher, someone that I follow and I appreciate. His name is Brother Yusuf. He's on YouTube as well. All of them had this message of don't get caught up in following a set path. Like, if you do that, it's pretty much the same as being in a religion. Like, you're not supposed to take your spirituality and then have this set blueprint. Like, you have this individual to you as you are to the world. And so with that, like, as I started to like customize things and customize my rituals and my practices, I started to see, I don't know, I just started to feel more free. Like, whereas I grew up, like I said, I grew up in a church, a heavy Democrat family, heavy on the social programs, social systems. And then I realized that by leaning on a external institution, like they can dictate what you do. And to me, it's just a parallel to spirituality. When you are so dependent on a teacher or a guru or anything outside of you, it limits what you can do. So as I became more independent and customizing my spiritual practices, it made me realize like, oh, well, I don't want this person telling me what to do on the natural road either. You know what I mean? So they kind of just went hand in hand with me, like not following anybody's path, just doing my own thing. Because at the end of the day, I know that I am God. Like, who can tell God what to do?
Factual.
Nice.
Factual.
So
No,
go ahead, Nicco. No, go ahead.
So you actually put me on Brother Joseph. And one thing that I've picked up, oh, ain't that nice? One thing that I've picked up is working with crystals. When did you start working with crystals, and when did you realize like did you start working with crystals and watch the video and you realize you were using crystals wrong, or did you like always have that information by starting out with Brother Joseph?
I'm trying to think what came first, but from what I can recall, before I didn't find Brother Yusuf until the end of 2020, and I found Moldavite and citrine and black tourmaline probably about 2018, because that's where I was still kind of like in the thick of my dark night of the soul experience, and I was just going through a lot of things where I felt spiritually attacked, and of course, I was trying to come out of that and raise my vibration. I kind of jumped into the crystals, not really knowing what a crystal was, not knowing how to cleanse them, not knowing how to activate them, just kind of feeling my way in the dark. And so by the time I had found Brother Yusuf, it was reaffirming what I had learned by experience. You know what I mean? So I would watch this video and be like, hey, you should have done this, or you should do this and this. I was like, oh yeah, that's accurate. I wish I would have watched the video first. And that's pretty much been the experience with everything I've done in spirituality. I've gone in head first, and then I'll find somebody as a teacher, and they were like, here's how you avoid this pitfall. And I was like, man, I wish I would have found that video first. But at the same time, nothing can really replace your own experience.
Factual. You need those experiences to be able to guide you into, if you are more experienced and mature the next time around, and you surpass the cycle with the knowledge that you've obtained, or you're back in the vicious cycle that you threw yourself back into.
Yeah, for sure. But
so go ahead, Marcus.
No, that's okay, Chad. Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, man, my questions can go for days. So we're good.
That's facts. I
was gonna say, all right. So being Catholic and like having my relationship with God, my relationship with Christ, and then like even I guess tertiary or secondary and tertiary relationships with saints, and in a certain sense, it's similar to like ancestral relationships and things like that. Thinking of things in terms of a relationship, to me, it's this idea of experience versus like a technical understanding is like really, really drawn out and like pops, because I can read about a person. I can read about Marcus all day, but I know Marcus. Like I know Marcus. I have experienced. I have experienced Marcus. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole different level of knowledge when you've actually like spent time with someone and you've gone through experiences with them and you've been through shit with them, than it is when you are just reading about them in a book. It's a whole different ball game. And so how does that translate for you and your spirituality to someone like me who's talking about this in real terms of like a God, a monotheistic God and a person in Christ, and comparing, because what we have been trying to do for a long time here is trying to, rather than debate over whose religion is right or whose spirituality is right or anything like that, is trying to help each other understand why, number one, why we might be able to learn from each other and why we might be able to share similar experiences together. But number two, and this is something I want to get into a little bit later on, is why does it seem like everyone is, not everyone, but a lot of people are waking up to this conversation right now? That conversation was nearly dead 5 years ago. So if you don't mind, like how that relationship and experiential aspect of spirituality versus a technical book learning, type of understanding.
Well, I would say that, at least for me, I know it's a top 3 pitfall for everybody on the path. But at least for me, that was probably number one, is because I love learning in general. I like reading in general. But it's definitely a trap to be stuck in the books, or to be stuck with a teacher, or to be stuck with a documentary or something like that. And so I believe that's why I've attracted the teachers that I have, because if you look up S.Ali Myers, some of the stuff he talks about, and the way he talks in a very stern and to the point type of way, that had I not found him as a guide, I probably would have still been stuck in just reading the books. But he comes with a message of, okay, you got all the books, you got all this, you read that, but like, what are you doing? And like, when I heard that message, I was like, surrounded by books, like a bunch of them open at the same time. But I was like, what am I doing? So it shook me out of that. And I think that's where a lot of people are in their spirituality. And I think it's a necessary phase to want to go and get all the information you can. But at some point, if you want to have those authentic experiences by talking to your ancestors or meeting higher self or any of those type of things, that's not going to come from a book. It's going to come from you doing your meditative practices. It's going to come from you doing your rituals and that type of thing. So I think that eventually, if a person has done their due diligence in trying to find the knowledge, I do believe that spirit will send something to wake them up out of that phase, or they will get so full with knowledge where they're like, okay, I have enough, time to move on to the next phase.
Absolutely. And that's also been my experience. What you're describing actually fits really well to the Kabbalistic or Judeo-Christian mystical idea of the Tetragrammaton, or the 4-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He. The final path, if you will, starts. You have a balance in you. And for people that don't know, each of the letters in Yod He Vav He, which is YHVH, or Yahweh, Jehovah, however you want to pronounce that, each of the letters corresponds, and I'm not going to get into a deep thing, but each of them corresponds to an element. And one of those elements is air. And air can take you so far, which is reading and it's knowledge and figuring out. And without that, if you're just out doing random shit, that's not going to help nobody. You're just like, throw an apple up in the sky and I'll be free. That's not going to work. But
right.
But when you get a balance and of those, and Eliphas Levi described these as the 4 powers of the Sphinx, and they are to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silent. And those 4 powers really combine in the individual to bring them forward. So you have talked a lot, so I just wanted to kind of put a capstone on that. Absolutely, that's exactly what I've experienced too. I started off similarly, just reading a bunch and trying to figure it out, and making shit up as I went, like trying to this level of bullshit works in this place, you know, whatever it is that I can get it. But ultimately, the what you said about learning as you go and doing is exactly what happened. What happened to my own spirituality is whether, you know, because I've had an exciting spirituality too, whether it was working with spell work or working with calling an archangel and we lost our guest. So anyway, I'll complete that thought and hopefully he will be right back.
For sure.
But anyway, at the end of the day, when I put all those things together, doing it has taught me way more than any book.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
So as we wait for him to fully come back in, Aga, you with us yet?
Give it a second. I don't think the mic and everything is queued up yet.
This bumblebee is scaring the shit right out of me. I got to tell you, because it's not like hurting nothing, but it is just trying to get to God. This thing is like, I found the light, and it's right in the middle of my basement. So
Agatanahi, you there?
I'm here. I think everybody cut out for a little bit, or I cut out.
Yeah. You dipped out of the stream. It's all good. You back? So anyway, finish your thought, Marcus.
So basically, to wrap up before unfortunately you dropped, I basically was saying I agree with you that I learned a lot from books, but when I started doing and for a Christian, this is just taking the time in your day to pray. It's not that big of a damn deal. These rituals, you know, people, when you hear the word ritual, want to make it this huge thing, and that just isn't the case. That doesn't mean that we can't base a lot of things on some tradition and find some depth in that, but it is about doing, you know, speaking to any kind of spiritual force, if you will, is you get more in 10 minutes from talking to some angel or some elemental or some Loa or whatever spirit you're working with. 10 minutes with them is worth $400 because you cut through the nonsense and the bullshit and you just get to the direct mastery. And that works whether you're talking about crystals, whether you're talking about spirits, whether you're talking about reading the Bible. When you start implementing it in your life, that's where it happened. I've noticed that you have, like for instance, you like Kali. Kali's a big deal, and for those that don't know, she's a goddess of time and lots of big goddess, really important in Hinduism. But I also saw that you have a lot of African symbolism that you kind of incorporate too. The one question I had when relating that, because I recognize for myself the image that you're using, that you use online and that you used that we used for this podcast. What does that symbol mean to you?
Oh, so this is the helm of all. From as far as I know, it's Scandinavian, Nordic. It's a protection symbol. So another one of my teachers, Brother Yosef, again on YouTube. He's also a freestyle spiritualist. He was like, I use whatever works. I'm not left hand path. I'm not right hand path. Anything. I use whatever works. And so he talks about how a lot of people, when they first come to spirituality, they have a lot of religious or cultural biases or whatever. And he was like, magic does not have a race to it. So he was like, I'm gonna use this very powerful Scandinavian freaking tome or emblem, and it doesn't matter if I'm black. Like it's magic, you know. And so that's how I get down. And then further, by finding out who my spiritual parents were, one being Lord Ganesha, who's from the Hindu pantheon, and then the goddess Oshun being African. I was like, those are completely different worlds, and that is more symbol, or like it just lets me know like none of that stuff is matter. is all energy. And so if you call another trap, if you call it in like the cultural or religious biases or whatever it is, that you're going to miss out on a lot of things that can be helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
What's fun is that you what I find funny is because I'm Germanic as shit. I am about as Germanic as they come. And I had no idea. Right. I had no idea that was a Germanic symbol. Do you know where I recognize it from? It's an African-based symbol.
Where's that?
Was the symbol you use is also used in Kimbanda, which is a African-based voodoo-like religion from Brazil, and it is it's slightly different, but barely. It's one of the many symbols of the god Exu. And
okay.
so it's a real. So for me, I was like, oh shit, that's funny, because the white guy is like, oh no, it's an African symbol. So
that's racist, Marcus.
I know.
Oh, shit.
That's crazy.
funny.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is wild.
If I can find it, I'll try to send you the Kimbanda. They're called Pontos. I'll try to send you the symbol. So I find it funny. And Exu, in comparison to those that don't know, he is like, lots of people compare him to the devil, but he's more like Loki out of the Teutonic system than the devil. He's very challenging for sure, but anyway, interesting correlation between the two of them. As for Ganesh and Oshun's a huge deal for me. One of my daughters, because I work with Santeria as well, and one of my daughters is massively into Oshun, and I have a daughter who is also into Urzuli, which is the voodoo version of Oshun, and so I'm very familiar with them. But the first thing you'd noticed if you walked into my living room and turned around the corner right by the door where Legba stuff is, I have a picture of Ganesh, because I associate Ganesh with Legba. So really interested in how those two gods for you like work in your personal life. What do you feel that they work on you with, and the combination?
So I'll start with Oshun, because I think that energy is that's the heaviest in my life at this point. So anybody who's working with Oshun, from what I've learned, experience, they have issues with their heart chakra, and they have issues with their romantic relationships. So I think that I'm here to do some healing. I don't know exactly what I did karmically before, but looking at my astrological chart, I definitely have some healing to do with my relationships. I have a 7th house stellium. I'm not sure if y'all know what that means, but basically I have 3 planets in the 7th house. So, and that's the house of partnerships and whatnot. So, with her being my spiritual mother and having that astrological imprint on my chart, she lets me know, like, hey, stuff to do with women, how you view them, how you operate with them, and some forgiveness to do. You know what I mean? So that's the message that I take from her. But she's also a witch, and she's also a goddess that can that is benevolent and can bestow wealth on you. So I take all of those different things, all of those different aspects of her to be like, okay, I'm supposed to here to treat women well, make some money, and and to tap into magic. Ganesha, I found it out later, because there are some rituals you can do that you can figure out who your spiritual parents are. One of them is in your astrological chart, but to find out your other parent, you have to do some digging. So I did a ritual, and I found out it was Ganesha. But when I started to read about Ganesha, I learned that he has a lot of different faces. So I'm actually still learning more about that, but I know one of the faces, other than being like a god of benevolence and whatnot, but he also has some demonic ties to him. He also has some trickster energy to him. So I'm still exploring that. I'm just doing my best to venerate him as much as I can and tap into that part of his energy that's within myself. Hopefully I answered your question. If I didn't, like, let me know so I can expound.
Oh, that's good. No, that's good, man. For me, Ganesh, very similar. I really associate him with Legba, what you talked about with him having many faces. In traditional voodoo, it is said that all existence, and I also know that in Hinduism, the whole world is pictured as Ganesh's stomach. It's his belly. That's some people say the universe. So, but in traditional voodoo, they believe that that there is actually only Legba, which would mean that there is only Ganesh, and that Legba is telling stories, and each of the stories become each of the different lower or different spirits. And so it's a very similar idea to what you just talked about with Ganesh being just one of many faces or having several faces, those kinds of ideas. I like overlaps, and I like things that are fun like that.
Nicco.
Well, yeah, they have to. From what I understand, they have to overlap.
No, keep going.
Was that?
My bad. Keep going.
From what I understand, they have to overlap because everything is connected. It's really the same energy. It's just the cultural personifications of the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember reading somewhere they were talking about how Ganesha is same. He's actually Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense to have so many hats in the Hindu pantheon, and you relate him to Thoth, who has so many hats in the Egyptian pantheon. I'm like, okay, so this makes a lot of sense that it's the same energy, just a different personification.
For sure.
Nicco, you got something?
I got two things. The first thing would be, hi everybody. This is a local broadcast on me coming to ask all of you Negroes and Negrettes and Crackettes and Crackers and all that fun shit. $5, $5, if you will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the Patreon. Please like, share, and subscribe. We have geniuses that are just, dropping gems in the chat. And we also have these. Oh, wait. Fuck. I'm not even going to worry about these directions. I have these three people next to me who, well, Aga's not in this, but Marcus and Chad be dropping gems as well. We are working on formulating a community that can just thrive and prosper. So if you would like to join and you want to be a badass in the future, one of them pureblood people, then slide through. 2 shares, speed the spread, baby. Like, share, subscribe. And then the question being would be, did you start looking into astrology first, or were you looking more amongst the historian factor when really getting on your path, or going on your path? Did you learn astrology, or did you learn history of like the gods and things of that?
So I've always been that guy or that kid who watches Sci-Fi Channel. So I'll probably say I started with Bigfoot, the In Search Of series, the Loch Ness Monster, all of that stuff. That's where I started.
Okay.
And then as I grew up and kind of grew, well, I'm not gonna say I grew out of it, but I feel like I had learned as much as I could without it taking up too much of my life about the cryptozoology, the aliens and stuff like that. And so, but I've always had a desire to relate with people. So before I got into astrology, I was into like the Myers-Briggs personality type of assessments. Then I got into the Enneagram, which is very deep if you take the time to learn it. And then I found
break that down.
astrology.
I have no idea what the fuck an Enneagram is. I don't lie to you.
So the basic understanding of the Enneagram that I have is that the person comes in, or a soul comes in as a blank slate, and they start to exhibit certain defense mechanisms. That's what we call the personality, by what they have experienced in their early childhood. And so the Enneagram has a 1 through 9 scale, and each number represents a certain type of personality or defense mechanism. What I like about the Enneagram is that it shows you how healthy you are. So let's say, for example, I'm a type 8 in the Enneagram. It's called the challenger. It's like you're a very aggressive type of person. You challenge authority. You don't like being told what to do, whatever, which is true. But not only, based on the questions, not only do you know I'm a type 8, you can see, are you a healthy type 8? Are you unhealthy? So if you have somebody like me who's doesn't like to be told what to do, has to be their own boss, on the healthy scale is someone who is benevolent. Like, I don't like being told what to do, and I don't want you telling everybody else what to do. I want everybody to be free. On an unhealthy scale, you can have someone who's a type 8 and they're a tyrant. Like, they don't know how to use their ability for the greater good. So that's something that the Enneagram is a whole science on itself. It'll be almost like me trying to break down astrology in a minute. The Enneagram is very, very deep.
That's dope. That's dope though. That makes sense though. It's like you can make so many different patterns. It's like pairing 5 and 5. You can get 25 different ways, but in all, those 25 different ways have a certain
variation.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes complete sense, and it makes sense on why it goes in so depth. Does it actually correspond with like numerology? Can you use numerology with it?
In a way. So everything is number. Like, you can't get away from numbers once you really understand what numerology is, the different aspects of God. But the Enneagram, I've mostly seen it used as a psychological tool, not really a divination tool. Astrology and numerology is. There's a couple. Man, I probably got like 3 books on it, but the best one I've read is called "The Wisdom of the Enneagram," and they go into a really deep explanation about like how you're not supposed to really be any number. You're supposed to be a whole person. Like, you're supposed to end up healing that personality defense mechanism and become a whole person. But to answer your question, I ended up getting into astrology probably about 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. Just because it had always been interesting to me, but I never took the time to like dig into it. But once I did, I was like, okay, so this is actually a science. This is not like something you read in the newspaper. It's not something you do on Twitter. It's like, it actually takes some study and application. So then once I found, so this is why I get so frustrated with Twitter sometimes. And sometimes I don't like being up there. It's because once you learn what astrology is, you have to do the history. You have to do the symbolism. You have to understand what's really happening. You know what I mean? You're not going to understand that if you don't go into the history and the symbolism. It's almost impossible to understand astrology without understanding symbolism. So, but
very true.
I'll leave that tangent there.
Well, so since you were kind of going in that direction, it leads me to something I read that you tweeted like not that long ago, like maybe a couple of days ago or so, where you were talking about people who use this stuff, whether it's numerology, astrology, or any of this stuff, and they almost make it. It spoke a lot to some of the stuff that I've been kind of realizing, I guess, about my own spirituality, in that when we make some of these things the end itself, instead of a means to the end, a tool to help us grasp a part of the bigger picture. I think a lot of sometimes we can worship the telescope and mistake it for the stars, mistake it for the galaxy, for the universe, instead of just saying, no, this telescope is a way for us to see the universe more clearly and in more depth, but it is not the universe itself. So describe
Exactly.
like where did that come
Exactly.
from? Like how did you come to that realization, and what has that meant to you to actually start to develop that?
Again, I would have to give a shout out to S. Ali Myers, Indra Ali. I retweet some of his stuff on Twitter sometimes too. But that he's the guy who got me to the phase I am now, where he calls self-God realization or self-mastery. And it was really apropos because I was watching some of his videos, and he was like, it's ridiculous that so many people who say that they are God, or they're tapped into knowing who they are, but they paralyzed by Mercury retrograde. He's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're God, you can go and do whatever you want to. It doesn't matter what number the day is. It doesn't matter what planet is doing what. If you set your intention, you go out there and you dominate. You do whatever it is you want to do. And so when I watched that, and I was like, man, that makes so much sense. And of course, like, I'm in a group, me and Nicco in that group, GG33, and I definitely appreciate the network, and I definitely appreciate some of the minds that are in the group. But there are some people in that group and outside of that group that are too paralyzed by the numerology. They're too paralyzed by being a Virgo or whatever. They're too
Yeah, you
paralyzed.
talked about it being
I'm a
fatalistic
this,
in a
I'm a
way.
that, and I'm like, no, that's absolutely. I think if I'm remembering the tweet you're talking about, I said, don't become a prisoner to your numerology astrology. And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck. They're like, well, I can't do this, or I can't date this person because I'm a Leo or whatever. And I'm like, the point of it is to bring awareness to the issue, or to bring awareness to the day, or to bring awareness to what's happening, and then make your own decision. Like, the divination tool is not supposed to decide for you. And so but again, I got to that point maybe three or 4 months ago. I wasn't always there. I was a prisoner to my numerology. That's why I can speak on it. I'd be like, so I'm a 5 life path. That means I can't be with X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? But like, when you realize, no, you are the entire universe, you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? If you tap into that. So that's my spiel on that.
That's actually very, very true. I've been like sitting here trying to think. Like, I've been in paralysis and I haven't been in paralysis. So I had a rude awakening with one of my calendars, because my uncle's birthday was April 15th, and I made a compatibility calendar for like the good days and the bad days for my aunt and uncle, and like days for them chill, days for them to like back off. And this nigga gets drunk as hell on his birthday and ruins the entire day. And she looked at me, she was like, Nick, this was supposed to be a good day. I was like, wait, him being inebriated has nothing to do with me telling you it's a good day or bad day. But like, it snapped me back into reality. It's like, it's just puzzle pieces that you use to solve the whole board. You don't take this piece and be like, oh my God, this puzzle is beautiful. No, nigga, it's just a part of it. It's not the whole thing. It doesn't make it go around and around, because guess what? You still have to walk and go do the action in the first place. So
exactly. I just equated to it being the Weather Channel. Like, you could see maybe this a 5-day or maybe a 7-day, or maybe the sun is in Taurus or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Like, look on the Weather Channel, it says raining outside. You get an umbrella and you go about your day. Like, it's not supposed to paralyze you. And I think it also has to do with people who have no sense of identity. So they leech on to, oh, I'm a Taurus, so this means I get to do this and this. This is what's great about me. But like, who are you as a person? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but man, I can go on tangents about that stuff, man, because it really gets on my nerves.
Well, that's back to what you were saying about that test where you said like you're an 8 personality type or whatever. It's like, yeah, but are you living that properly, or are you just like using it as an excuse? Like, oh, look, this says I'm a Gemini, so I get to be like wishy-washy and split personality, and I can be like
I'm a
really
flake on you
unpredictable.
niggas.
Exactly. Like no, that doesn't. Like it's not. That's not what this shit is meant to be. Like it's like what Dame Dizzle said. He said, it's like looking at a watch. Like like it. If you know you got an appointment at 3:00 and it's 1:00, you don't say, "Oh, it's 1:00. I guess I'm not going to that appointment." Like, well, no.
I do flake niggas though. I do flake. I'm not gonna
We all do, man. We all fall for this bullshit. The thing is, for people to understand, this isn't just for like magical people, okay? It isn't. Christians do the same shit too. I can't make it to church for one reason or another because Jesus said this in the Bible one time. They make excuses for all kinds of nonsense too. This is a human condition. But you're right. There are a shit ton of people, and I know a lot of them that are like, oh, we shouldn't go outside. Did you know that so-and-so moon is rising? And when you were talking about the Mercury retrograde shit, dude, years ago, I said, I don't participate in that shit. I'm not going to have a bad day for months. I'm not doing that. I'm not participating in it.
It is a perception thing though. Now that you think, like, you really think about it, since you could tell motherfuckers that it's Mercury retrograde, and everybody's gonna be like, oh my god. Everybody just threw nothing but massive panic energy into the air to just make this shit a little funkier. So all in all they did was hyperinflate what was like really going to happen. So if you don't give it any credence or credit, then you don't have to like exhaust yourself over thinking about it.
Right. A true magician
learns
to work
just
with
supposed
nature.
to give that. You're supposed to, exactly. That's exactly what it is. You're just supposed to know what time it is, give that energy its respect, but it's not supposed to paralyze you. It's not supposed to dictate your life.
Yep.
Go ahead, Aga. You started to say something. There is just a little bit of a delay between us, so go on and continue with your point, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can.
Oh yeah, I was just saying it's just like you were saying. You were about to say something about a true something about a true magician, and I think I cut you off. And I was like, yeah, it's just supposed to be something where you're supposed to recognize and respect the energy, but that's it. It's not supposed to be something that paralyzes you or dictates your life. And I think people only fall into that trap just because they don't really know who they are, but also because I do believe it's probably a government psyop to turn a actual helpful tool for self-actualization and realization into a novelty trick.
No,
I think that astrology, crystals, the tarot, I think those are the top three psyops in the metaphysical community, if you ask me.
Hey, actually, yes, I would agree with that. What they do is they divert your attention the best possible. They can't hide it, but they divert your attention. What people have to understand is since we are the cosmos, we can really tap into like some real sick, unlimited potential ass shit. Or walking crystals. We are built of everything that comes of the cosmos, the dust and all that fun shit. So we have the ability to perform a lot of shit that like all it does is just take real focus. Granted, if anybody knows what technology really is, it's just nothing but Luciferian toys. So, like, it's nothing but Lucifer's toys just to keep you distracted away from what real God is, which is nature, and being one with yourself and understanding one as a whole. And that's why they've done a good job when it comes to indoctrinating shit. Like, you snatch up your family and you send them down a pipeline, and niggas keep drinking this, that, and the third and have no idea about health. And so since they don't take no attention to health, they just live their everyday life saying, oh, well, my kidney hurt for a few days. Well, I'm not going to pay attention to it. To really get into like the spiritual life, the first, one of the biggest steps is health. Like if you don't pay attention 100%. To your health, if you don't pay attention to your health whatsoever, like you are submitting your entire life to an individual, AKA a doctor. And that should be the first thing on everybody. How the fuck do you run this and operate this machine that I am inside? What sense does it make that we always have to go and give away our ability of knowledge pertaining to your own body to another individual or things of that nature?
Mm-hmm.
So people don't really cognitively take in the understanding, like, for you to know yourself. And it's not about the hobbies you like or the people you like, or if Bonnie down the street thinks you're cute. It's really first starting off with, how well is your machine taken care of? Excuse me.
100%. I think I said that on Twitter as well, where I was like, what's the point of having a body if you can do everything in the astrals? And what I was trying to say by that is, like, no, your body is important. You're here to do something in this physical plane of reality. And I that's another one of those things where I feel like the people who say that your body, your health is not important are people who have never experienced it. Like, you cannot tell me that if you go on a fast or if you start to eat better, that you won't notice that your dreams are clearer, that your meditation is easier, all of that kind of stuff. So people who say that, I just firmly believe they're not actually doing anything. They're just falling back on their addictions.
Yeah, it's like asking, like, well, wait, if radio waves are invisible and travel through the air, why do we need a radio? Like, well, this is kind of self-explanatory, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is the tuning fork.
And that's like our biggest problem as a society as a whole. And I mean, more so leaning towards America and us being American. Well, actually, since I'm on this topic of America and being American, are you African, my friend? Like, what's up with the oh, son of a bitch? And that was like, all in all, like, what's your perception on us Negroes being here? What was we here already? Did we like get brought over here? Would you consider yourself, I guess, a black nationalist, or like, how do you perceive yourself when it comes to your skin color? Does it even fucking matter?
Now, this is another touchy topic, but like, it's science. And so first and foremost, I've done my genealogy back until the late 1600s, and none of my family members have come off of a boat. All of my family is from Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. So I'm what you call a Aboriginal American, American. So I don't tap into tap into any of that slavery. I don't tap into any of that slave narrative. I think it's defeatist, and I think it's just a way to for the powers that are currently running the country to keep you distracted and keep your resources or our resources. You asked me, so it does matter to the degree, because everything on Earth has melanin. If it's alive, it has melanin. Where the difference is the types of melanin. I mean, obviously, some people have more external melanin than others. But there's a whole science to that about why it matters. What else I was going to say? What was the other part you asked me? You asked me about my skin color, the slave narrative, and what else?
Basically, I was gonna like, are you a black nationalist? How do you perceive being a black individual in America? Like, because when you talk about spirituality, it's not about race, but if you really do your research, it kind of is about race to a degree. And that's from my black ass understanding.
It's really not. It's really not. It's more so about your culture. I think that's really the thing that's being attacked right now, is people's cultures, especially when it comes to like how you raise your kids, 2-parent homes, all the kind of things, extended families, those type of things. Those type of cultural things are under attack. When it comes to race, I think that's just another tier in the war, the collective war against us all. because everything is really more so about class and culture that we're dealing with, not so much about race. So I'm not a black nationalist. I'm, like I said, when I have my revelation and I understand what I'm here to do, I don't care about if the next person that is on my wavelength is black, white, Asian, or whatever. Like, if we're trying to do the same thing, we're trying to do the same thing. Because actually, if I'm being honest, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of ancestral veneration, that's a more so more dominated by the Asian culture. When I go and try to buy ancestor money or Josh paper or Josh anything, I get it from the Asians. You know what I mean? They know what time it is when it comes to taking care of their ancestors. So people that look like me, they're not even, unless they're from Africa or the Caribbean, they're not trying to do what I'm trying to do. So like, I'm just tapped into who is on the same vibration as me.
That's true. That is very true. That's true.
Absolutely. And this is, you know, for me, I struggled with this quite a lot as well, because like I said, I'm about as German as you can get. The 90% of my blood is German. I just can't find, and I have respect for the like Germanic gods, Thor and Freya and all that stuff. I have respect for people that find truth there. That's awesome. I just don't. And why is my white ass finding all kinds of joy and happiness coming from Legba and G'day and Urzuli and Shingo and all these African things? You know, I don't know about melanin. I don't know about all that stuff. But Africa,
clearly, no, I'm just joking.
but I got, yeah, right. But Africa has a very, I don't know, like beautiful place within my heart. I find it, and I find, and it goes beyond just spiritual stuff. You know, I find Frederick Douglass to just be one of the most enlightening individuals who happened to be black. Malcolm X, again, one of the most vicious defenders of freedom that has ever existed, again, has a black face. And I just personally, I don't know what it is about that draw. I don't know if it is my ancestors that are somehow I've gotten contact them from one way the fuck back there, but I find that joy there. And for me, it isn't about whether or not I should do it, or whether I am, what my race should be, or whether I should be proud of this or that or the other thing. I don't give a fuck about that. I'm with you. You know, whatever works, whatever gets you to God. The point is to get to God. And if sitting in a pew in a Methodist church gets that for you, then I'm 100% behind that. Whatever the fuck works for you, get there. Because this is a spiritual experience that we should be having. Yes, according to the Kabbalah, we are in Malkuth, we are in the kingdom, we are on earth. And to your earlier point, yes, this realm matters. Duh. Why else would we be doing it? But the point is not this realm. The point is some kind of growth, enlightenment towards God. And however somebody's getting there, great. When it comes to freedom, I agree with you. This is a psyop. This is absolutely how they can divide us into one camp or another camp and keep us fighting each other so that we don't fight the real enemy, which are the ass bags that are trying to control and destroy culture that you were talking about.
They're actually true.
Absolutely.
So,
and another part of this that I think when it comes down to the whole race thing is that people don't understand the concept of reincarnation. Like, you were not black every time.
True.
You were not Asian every time. You were not a woman every time. You were not a man every time. Like, how can you get caught up in race when you don't know? You don't even know who you were the last lifetime. You know what I mean? So your infinity or affinity for African culture, maybe you were African in the previous life. You know what I mean? People don't even stop to think about that type of thing. And that's something you can actually look at in your astrology chart as well. Where your Aquarius is in your chart, it shows you your propensity to like things that are foreign to you. The 12th house is another thing like that too. It can show you that your attraction to things that are foreign to you. So you may not go through life attracted to things that are in your culture. One, because you're not supposed to, and you're supposed to grow towards something else. Or two, you're attracted to something that you have been around for the past 3 or 4 lifetimes. And I think that's another thing, and we don't have to talk about it, but that's a whole nother thing when we're talking about those people who are transgender or whatever. Like, they could have spent lifetime as a man and come back as a woman, or vice versa, and they have not accepted, like, hey, I'm not that anymore, and they're having these urges to do different things based on previous lifetimes spent in a different body. But absolutely, I use whatever works. I've gotten past worrying about what people think about me. I just do whatever it is that's going to evolve my soul.
Yeah, to kind of to your point, yes, you're absolutely right. I've done some past life work, and yes, Africa plays a big part, particularly Egypt, but also into the deeper Africa as well, West Africa, and all of that. So absolutely. But also, I'm 5 degrees Aquarius, so there's where that's at. And
Okay.
Yeah, and so I also have Saturn in my 12th house, and it is everything else.
12 houses.
Yeah, everybody's got 12 houses.
It was a joke.
I know. But it is in the 12th house, right? So it's in the 12th house, and everything else is on the other side. So it ranges, but everything's on the other side. So every single thing in my life is pointed towards that other, which is Saturn in my 12th house. So yes, you're correct. So just to
absolutely. I would love to read your chart.
Okay.
I want to tap into one thing. We're talking about this psyop stuff and everything, because I just want to give y'all. It was really like digging in on me, this idea of whether it's astrology or numerology or Christianity, like scripture, any of these things, even like, you know, all the other religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, like you go through and like people, human nature, especially in today's microwave culture, is to go for like that bumper sticker, that like quick fix, that immediate gratification. We want the answers, and we want them all now. We aren't patient enough to wait for what a deeper understanding involves. It involves a lot of waiting, a lot of work, a lot of introspection, a lot of silence. And I just want to like, it dawned on me as we were talking about this. There's a tendency for people to look at all of these things that involve our transcendental self, the self of us that is both part of this body and also transcends this body. We have a tendency to look at these things in a way that wants to be superficial, because superficial is easier, it's faster, it's more immediate access, right? And so it dawned on me, like, CNBC is great at manipulating people this way. I have like, just because I do a lot of stuff in the market and everything, I have the CNBC app just because like when stuff happens, news hits or whatever, and for whatever reason, I didn't like disable the notifications until like just recently. But while I had them enabled, I would always get these notifications. So I just pulled up the app just to see if they had one. This is what they love to do. It says stock futures fall on Sunday as Wall Street braces for a busy earnings week. So they use this word "as" to make you think it means because. They say stock futures fall on Sunday, and then whatever comes after "as" is their microwave culture explanation for why stock futures have fallen on Sunday. Probably doesn't have a damn thing to do with, like, they'll do this stuff all the time. It's like, so such and such, you know, the Dow is up 400 points as coronavirus fears ease, or some nonsense like that. And it's like, no, dumbass, like Netflix and Amazon just had blowout quarters, and they're carrying the market. And then you look at like half of the other sectors, the oil sector is getting destroyed. It's just, there's so much more to it than just like looking at this from, and it used to always drive me nuts when I watch like my dad and like some other folks, they look at this stuff and be like, oh, the Dow's down 250 points. I'm like, are you taking all your money out today? And like, is it really going to hurt you if it's down 250 points today? People tend to, they tend to view things in their spirituality in that same way, where they just want the headline. They just want that thing that tells them like, tell me why this stuff is happening. Oh, it's because Mercury is in retrograde. Okay, well, that explains everything. Now I don't have to do anything. I just have to recognize that my life is fucked because of Mercury being in retrograde. And I guess I just should sit here on my hands and be fucked. And so
Mercury.
we have exactly. So we have a tendency as human beings, the weakness of our flesh can sometimes be an obstacle to like our transcendental self, the rest of us that can go, yes, exactly, sleight of propaganda hand. Bingo. So what people tend to do is, instead of, okay, I'm going to look at this company, I want to see what their financials look like, I want to see what kind of EPS they're pulling, what type of deals they've made recently that might improve that, and I'm going to invest long term, and I'm going to dig in. That takes a lot of work. It's a lot easier to just be like, you know what, stock futures are falling as Wall Street braces for a busy week of earnings. Let me set up some sell orders tomorrow morning because I'm scared. That people want that little, just tell me the answers so I can just get rich. And it's like, it's not that easy. It's so much more complicated than that, and it involves a lot more work. And so that's where, like, going into the astrology and numerology stuff, a lot of people like to just use like a number for a day, like, oh, it's a this day, therefore all this certain stuff is going to happen. It's like, well, what about how that stuff relates to you and what your shit is, and like what some of the things that you're doing and how those things align?
Exactly.
It's just a part of the equation, and you have to do more work to get the rest of the answer. Trying to treat it like it's tic-tac-toe.
If I see another freaking general reading,
yeah,
exactly. If I see another freaking general reading for all signs, I'm like, oh my, how can you possibly do that? Like, so you're 100% right. People just want the quick answer, and they forget that some people have spent their lives becoming adept at different practices. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even have to be spiritual. Like, there's someone who spent their life being a mechanic or a doctor or a lawyer. It's the same as somebody who is a numerologist or astrologer or a tarot reader. It takes years of practice. But I don't think you're ever going to get past that part of human nature of wanting to get the quick fix. It's kind of like in our DNA to want the instant gratification, and then the culture doesn't help.
Hyperinflated that too.
Like, people literally ask me questions where they. What do you say?
I said that they hyperinflated the instant gratification attitude. Motherfuckers used to wait for mail to be sent to their loved ones in like 3-4 months. Now we get an instant text message like, okay, nah, I knew you were next to your phone and I ain't talked to you for like an hour. What do you do? Like, so the instant gratification was just blown. Actually, it was basically put upon this specific generation and like a few generations prior to it, opposed to the other generations that used to be the hands and knees working in the fields. You feel me? So it's about the times, but I'm sorry to cut you off. What were you saying?
I was saying something about how it takes. I was agreeing with Chad about the desire for instant answers, instant gratification. But that also goes to the fact that they really don't like or love what it is they're trying to learn, because there are certain parts of astrology that are bone dry boring. But because I like the science, I like to learn the ins and out of it, I take the time to read those chapters and try to apply it versus it. So what we're really describing to me is just a giant identity crisis. People who really don't know who they are, so they have to attach themselves to external labels, external practices, and all type of stuff. But that's what it seems to be to me, is a lack of self-identity.
Searching for like some sort of external validation of who they are and what they're supposed to be, and like the idea of being of having someone else tell you that it's okay for you to be you is so weird to me.
Yeah. And it's also, you're right. And it's also searching for miracles. They want this shit to happen today. You know, and, you know, one of the things a lot of this conversation reminds me of is some friends of mine, I wasn't there, but some friends of mine were working with Enochian, which is a form of angelic magic, and that I actually have done quite a lot of, but that they had done, that were doing this, and they were talking to an Enochian angel.
Oh,
and
same
one of them,
thing. I love that stuff.
yeah. So at the end of the day, what they said was, when they were talking to the angel, they asked the angel, "Well, will we ever able to like just manifest money, or to just, you know, have whatever it is they want?" And the angel's answer was absolutely, in Lil. And for those that don't know, which is most people, in the Enochian system, there are 30 levels of consciousness. The final one is Lil, or Lil. And so what they said was, yes, you'll be able to in Lil. And in other words, when you reach the final level of consciousness, which is 30 levels, which is a pain in the ass to get to. And then they said, and the angel said, and once you get there, you don't want that shit no more. So, you know, again, people are looking for miracles. They're looking for everything right now. And like Chad just said, without knowing who the fuck they are, how do you expect to know every ins and outs of the entire goddamn universe when you can't say who you are? So, yeah, to me, a lot of this is just nonsense. And people looking for the easy out, and we face it a lot more, I think, than Christians and Muslims and Jews do, because magic by its reputation gets you in people's minds to instant gratification. I got news for you. I've been doing this shit for a really long time. I'm 47 years old. I've been doing it since I was 18. Guess what? It's fucking hard. It is a daily activity. It is not easy. And so that's why I tell people, this is not, if you want to suddenly be able to walk on water, this is not the path for you. I don't know if there is one. This one ain't it.
Right. 100%.
So for you, you know, you had mentioned earlier that you had quite a lot of it, like animosity and you know, dislike for Christianity. This is something that I have personally faced, and try to give credit where credit is due. Really, Chad is one of the biggest reasons why I have come to a loving embrace, not of Jesus. I did that a long time ago. He's cool. But being able,
his followers are assholes sometimes.
Right. His followers are shitholes, and a lot. And so
bad.
Yeah, right. But people like Chad and frankly Aaron and people like Mark Kreslins and many of these people are the people that have really led me to embrace them as just another method of getting at God. What has helped you get past that anger, or are you still there?
What helped me get past it is a lot of shadow work, where I realized that I would say at least 50% of the anger that I had with Christianity was with the followers. Like he was saying, some of the followers are assholes, because I would be coming up from where I came from, struggling, somewhat poverty. I would look around at the people who were professing Christ and Christianity, and they were not in good places in life, at least from a material standpoint. And I'm like, we could be doing something different, because you're telling me Jesus wants you to do this, or you're telling me that we have to be in this church or whatever. Like, why did I was like equating the religion to why my life was at a young age was hard. And so when I realized that a lot of what I was holding to them, holding against Christianity, really had to do with them and their impact on me and my life, I got past some of that. And then another part of me getting over my animosity towards Christianity was I learned that everybody's path is different. And so when studying a part of astrology, karmic astrology, you can look in people's charts and see what they're here to atone for. You can see what some people are here to do, and so some people their time on Earth is simply just to be, well, their time and interaction with you is simply to be. It could be one day, it could be one word, and so when I understood that I chose to incarnate into a family of Christians, it was for my greatest good, for my highest good. And so if I know that I chose this, like, how could I be angry at them? You know what I mean? I needed that upbringing to get to where I am on my spiritual path now. You know what I mean? And so one of my teachers was telling me that once you realize that someone who has helped you on your spiritual path, you have to tell them thank you. Even if this person did the most vile thing to you, to send you into the dark night of the soul, to betray you, to break your heart, stole from you, whatever it is, whatever sent you down that road, and you realize you wouldn't have been down there, you wouldn't have reached the point where spiritual growth out there, you have to tell thank you. And so when I look back, I would not be here had it not been for my temporary disdain of those people. And they just happen to be Christians. You know what I mean?
Yeah, love it. One of the things that I also think that
shout out to us,
right. But one of the things that's really nice too about this particular, right. One of the things that's nice about this particular relationship that I've kind of developed with Christianity is that I really have gotten to where I'm like, thanks, that's awesome. Thank you for teaching me whatever lesson it was that I needed to learn. So that's really cool. And what I have found, particularly, and Chad's leaving right now, but he was saying I'm about to pay him a compliment.
I'm going to be listening on my phone. I'm going to get something. I'll be right back.
Cool. So what's really interesting to me is I've really seen with this project that Chad's been working on, the overlap. Like, it was so funny. You know, he was talking about this cup of Jesus that came, this is a couple days ago, that gets past him. My whole fucking spirituality is based on going towards towards Binah, which is because, again, Saturn, 12th house, all that stuff. So is heading towards Binah and the cup of Babylon. So I'm like directed at that shit. And here comes Chad going, just accept the cap. Just accept the cup that it passes to you. And I'm like, that's exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Jesus knew what the hell he was talking about. Go figure. But his journey has really taught me how this is all the same shit. This is just different people putting different words on the same ideas.
This is a big ass game of bullshit telephone, and somebody told the sloppiest lie, and nobody decided to go straighten this shit out from the beginning. So, man,
y'all keep going. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for a spot in this book.
I actually had the same sentiment with, like, being in a really religious family and it being pushed like into my life, like, this is your end all be all. And like sitting in church, I was just sitting there bored as hell, like every other kid. And I'm like, bro, this shit is not hitting. Like, this shit don't make no sense. Like, I mean, granted, he's speaking truth, you know, and with certain sermons, but like, I'm nodding out in a pew just to get slapped upside my head by my mama. Boy, you better wake your ass up, like, in church. So it's like, it was something that was like, okay, well, here we go. And with my stepmom, you know, it was kind of forced upon me where I'd go to Sunday school every Sunday. Couldn't sleep in, gotta go learn about Jesus. And then after that, we'd have to go to church, and I'd sit there and like I was starting to like really understand it. Then you get confirmed, you pick up a name, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting homework on Sunday from church. Like, why do I have to, like, I already get this shit from school.
Supposed to be on break.
Right. I'm trying to mind my business and had to write a whole paper. But it is what it is. It's just the things that piled up. But the things that was worst about it was it was all stern and strict. And it felt like it drained my creativity as a child. Like all my energy and all my fun times that I could have, like, I guess, spent learning about certain things. I was sitting and learning about Jesus, but never really paying attention and like really retaining the information, you know. It wasn't something that I sat down and really digested. It was just, I'm here because you motherfuckers just have me here. So hi.
But see, from that standpoint, like I hear people say that a lot. They'll be like, they sound like victims. You know what I mean? Like I believe that we are in complete control of our experiences on this planet dimension, this dimension, and we knew exactly what we're getting into. So I just try to get people to snap out of them saying like, you made me do this or my parents made me do that or whatever like that. Like, no, in between your lives, you chose to incarnate into this lifetime for a particular reason. And the quicker you come to the realization, the quicker you learn the lesson of why you chose this family or that you chose this lifetime, I think you will make leaps and bounds in terms of your spiritual growth.
You know what? That's absolutely right. And with all the tools that like are presented towards an individual, all I think is like in a video game, you know how like you hit a pause menu and you have like a guide that tells you about your certain moves and skill sets and shit like that. That's all the shit is. You know, you get you a nice ass forecast and it just tells you about your characteristics. And as you level up and grow older, you obtain certain attributes. You're on a big ass RPG solo quest. Like that's what this shit is. It's a big ass RPG. And if you like either go explore the land or you stay in your land and you stay a certain commoner, or you explore this land and develop certain experiences, and you grow as a person, you know, there's always, I mean, you can always grow here at home, but exploration is a true eye opener when it comes to truly understanding different cultures and societies and expanding your wherewithal of other people other than the ones that represent your skin tone or your ideology due to your area.
Yeah,
Right.
it's for me, if this is all, because early on we talked about the whole idea that this is a simulation, okay? I don't see how that is earth-shattering to anyone who has practiced any religion. Every religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, all of them say this is an illusion and that the God is on a different plane. Well, maybe God's the player of the game. You know, if this is a simulation, I don't give a fuck. It still has the same like impact on my life if God's like God as we kind of envision God being, or God's some little kid playing a video game, and it still has the same fucking impact on my life. So if that's true, if we are in a simulation and we do get to create our own reality, my church is all about banging on some drums. Goday's a hell of a god, man. He's a good time. He likes to party, drinks him a shit ton of rum.
Wait, you can drink at your church?
all the time, dude. Rum is required in.
I mean, no, not that wine stuff that they feed me, or like know, my uncle had like the little packets, like a little graham cracker and some cranberry juice at the very bottom of it. And they used to get a little.
That's what's beautiful about voodoo, man. I get rum, cigars, weed. I get all.
I know about the cigars.
My God's awesome. And so, if I get to choose God, if I get and to me, G'day and Jesus are quite similar when you really dive into it, except for the rum, the boobies, and the cookies. I get cookies and rum. If you want crackers and wine, you can have crackers and wine. That's fine. I like boobies, rum, and weed. It's weird. So I get to choose. That's what I choose.
So I never found. I went downstairs to get this book. It's a great book. It's called Interior Freedom. It's by Jacques Philippe. But anyway, it's somewhere in there, or it may be another book by him that I'm mistaking it for. But there's something in there because y'all were talking about this idea with like Christianity, and I think this plagues every different either movement or spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it, any group of people that is attempting to evangelize, I think. Or even sometimes it can just be like I've had this experience as a parent, as a son of my parents, when a lot of times people can think that if they are doing what they think needs to be, or saying what they think needs to be said, or doing what they think needs to be done to promote whatever it is that they believe in, they are losing sight of one very important aspect of it, and that is the manner in which you promote that idea. So often we can, Westboro Baptist Church, for instance,
Bad press.
You can say some things in a way that where you may have really good intentions. I'm sure they think they have really good intentions. Their messaging is terrible. And I think it's important to consider that there's a way to, because I've actually done some of these things before where we go and we'll like pray in front of like an abortion clinic, and it's across the street, and it's very respectful, and it's very quiet, and it's very it's just very reverent. It's not, we don't have to be like heckling people or calling them murderers or any of this other kind of stuff. What it is it's just a way of like of being who you are and being where you think you need to be, but trying to do it in a way that respects the humanity of the other person, and recognizes like, okay, listen, you may see this as, even like Marcus and I have dealt with this, like we're like huge anti-war activists, and sometimes you have to be careful. Like there's certain people, John Bolton and John McCain and other folks like that, who I'm like, yeah, you know what, gloves are off. Y'all are like actively going in behind closed doors in these smoke-filled rooms and designing the way you're going to murder people. I don't have the same level of like, outreach that I have for the unwitting dupes who fall for the propaganda. The unwitting dupes who fall for the propaganda need our charity. They need our love, our compassion, and a way for us to invite them to understand and recognize, okay, listen, I realize that that this stuff is thick. The propaganda is strong. It's very powerful.
Right.
And that it may have convinced you.
Right.
Let's have a conversation about like how this stuff is really, really harmful, and that there's a better way, and approaching it that way, instead of like, like you're a murderer, and you co-sign murder, like it becomes this pissing contest.
Super glue in their hand at
right,
Starbucks.
Exactly. Yes. Like shout out the homegirl last night, who was, I don't know what she was protesting or something, but she was dressed like a referee or something like that, trying to run onto the court for the in the Grizzlies Timberwolves game, and that security guard was peeping the whole time. She did not fall for it one bit. But it's very important, and so if I may allow me to apologize for all of Christianity, when we have as a community approached our evangelization with not the love of Christ, that the Savior we profess, but instead with the wrath of like a demon. Sometimes I think that some of this stuff comes off quite demonic and very counterproductive and very very oppositional to what we actually are and what we should be and what we should be striving to be. And so to that point, that's why I wanted to go get the book. And I'm sorry, Mark, I know you were trying to like compliment me and everything, and I appreciate that very much, but it ain't about me. Like what it is for me is it's about, if we can all together come to a deeper and greater and more fulfilling understanding of who we are, why we're here, and how we can come together and like reach that fulfillment together and bring each other closer to that fulfillment. That's all that I care about. And however I have to do that to achieve that. I'm going to try to do it. And that's why I brought that quote up, is because what he's talking about is the means that you use to get that message across are almost as important as the message itself. If your message that you're trying to get across is wholesome and true, but you're an asshole about it, what you have caused is you've actually caused rebellion against the truth. Because human nature is to rebel against oppression and tyranny. And so we all of us who have our little puzzle piece of the truth, I think, have a responsibility to try to profess that truth in a way that invites people to put their puzzle piece together with ours, instead of like, no, you need to burn your puzzle piece and you need to get one photocopied just like mine. And you know what I mean? It's a lot of times that can be the tendency for all of us. And anyway, so I apologize on behalf of Christianity for not being kind to you guys.
I don't think I have anything against people who are they believe they are expressing some type of righteous indignation, that they're angry because other people are not doing what God wants them to do. I don't have a problem with people who have conviction. I would say my issue with Christianity when I was growing up is that I don't believe they believed any of that stuff. And they were paralyzed by a fear of going outside and learning something different. You know what I mean? And that's what made me mad, because I was like, y'all don't believe any of this stuff. You're just too afraid to learn something new. You're more afraid of going to hell, or paralyzed by the fear of going to hell, than you are of like just learning something new. Like
a certain level of like self-actualization is like more fearful than like they're more afraid of the punishment than they are of the realization of their own fulfillment.
100%. And whenever you try to vocalize that to them, they shut down. So I was very frustrated, because I was like, well, this can't be true because X, Y, and Z, but like they take it as personal affronts or personal attacks. And I was like, I just gave up. And so like I said, I look back. I look back, and a lot of my disdain for Christianity was more so with them and their intellectual laziness and their just the way they were living their life. But I do accept your apology, because some Christians can be a little bit much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I think that I'm going to kind of aim at wrapping this up a little bit, but because we had told Aga we'd be with him in an hour and a half, and that's where we're at. No, it's all good. But this is an excellent conversation. But I want to.
No, we're good. I appreciate the time.
Yeah. So I want to kind of start wrapping up with something I think applies to this. This is actually, it's come in two iterations, and it comes from Shingo, who is the spirit of kings, if you will. He's a spirit in Santeria, and he's used both of these, the ways of explaining this from both angles. He has said, where fear is, love cannot be, and where love is, fear cannot be. And when you understand that God is love, when you understand that, take that, understand that when you are fearing, whether that's of hell or whether that fear is of other people's opinions or whatever it is, when you are afraid, that love cannot be there. But if you embrace love, if you embrace that loving God that wants nothing more than for you to be embraced by that love, there is no fear in the world that can stop you. So I want to turn this towards the end by saying that, Aga, this has been amazing. I love these kinds of conversations. I think that you are a inspiration in many ways. I think I draw a lot from your Twitter in spiritual ways, more than I do from a lot of the other, because I'm with Chad and frankly with Nicco, that I think that politics is important right now. And I think that understanding our journey towards freedom is important. but it's not the most important thing. The most important things are these topics. It is coming together because ultimately this is a spiritual war, and it is a war for the culture and a war for humanity. And the more we can come together and find that love, the better it will be. So I want to hand this to you, and whatever message, Aga, you'd like to deliver to our audience, to us, please do so. Also, any plugs that you have, anything that you want to present, your Twitter is is down below in the comment section. And then after you have said your piece, I'm going to let Chad and Nicco both say what they're going to say to kind of in closing. But I just want to again say this has been an amazing conversation. I put it right up there with our conversations with people like Mark Kreslins, who come from a Christian perspective, but deliver truth. And that's what you're trying to do. So thank you again for coming here, and give us your final words, man.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to all of you for just having me, for giving me an opportunity to speak my mind and share this information, and have this conversation. I don't have anything that I want to plug. I just want people to do the things, like check themselves and make sure they're doing the things that are bringing them closer to enlightenment, closer to God, things that evolve the soul. Because I see people stuck where I was at, where they were looking at things and doing things that are, for lack of a better word, mental or intellectual masturbation. Like they're just things that are there that pique your interest, but it's not helping you move the needle. It's not helping you grow. So my message is like, make sure you're doing the things that are actually helping you advance on your spiritual path. And that's all I have.
Gems.
Beautiful stuff. And the other thing is too, like I've seen you put some stuff in there about, gardening and growing food and all that sort of stuff too, like taking care of your own health and being responsible for that. That's one thing that I've taken. I kind of took a hiatus from doing that for a while, and we have recently jumped right back in with both feet on that. And anyway, I appreciate anybody else who's trying to promote that in people, because I think a lot of this stuff just comes down to recognizing that the more of your own sovereignty you hand off to other people in this physical realm, the more you make yourself, I think, susceptible to being manipulated in an intellectual and spiritual sense. Because when you are hungry, and when you are in pain, and when you are tired, that's when you are the most vulnerable to be manipulated and to be taken advantage of in every way, but especially when we are in a war with spirits and principalities and everything. Like, it's not just physical stuff. It can become spiritual and intellectual and very much transcending our human body. So I appreciate that. And I don't know, keep up the good work. And I'm going to let Nicco finish it off here.
I sorry I missed that little brief segment, but I appreciate you for coming on, dropping your wisdom, my G. It's always a pleasure to chop it up with you. There's nothing better I'd like to do than learn something on a good Sunday, and a 7-day at that. So it's like, why not put everything good use? And I'd most definitely like to have you on again if you'd be up for it.
If y'all will have me, I sure will come back.
Right on. It'll probably be a couple months, but yeah, I'll reach out, or Nicco can reach out, one of the two of us. But again, the purpose of Aquarian Anarchy is freedom of all kinds. It really is about what we stand for is that true, liberation that happens when your body, mind, and soul are all fixated on goodness and love. And so that's why we say that anarchy is freedom, love, and peace. peace, love, and freedom. And that's what we teach. So I'm glad you're out there, because we need as many allies as we can get, and because they got a bunch too. So thank you again for joining us, and for our audience, thank you for being here. And you know what you got to do, right? You got to stay free.
Peace, y'all.